Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the 19th hole live here on In Between Media YouTube. Make sure you like, subscribe, tickle the bell for notifications. We are going to cover the American Express. If that's it. It's not a championship. It's not a classic. It's not invitational. It's not even an open. This is the American Express. All right, we are here, 19th hole live, episode 2 of the season. We had one hell of a successful week last week at the Sony Open in Hawaii. Connor, it can't get any better than what we did, and we're going to spin it back in a little bit, but have you even calmed down a little bit since we totally nailed it last week?
Not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit. We were jacked up.
We were on Taylor Montgomery. We were on Siwoo Kim. Who else was right up there at the top that we were on top of?
Shoot, I had Putnam, and he was putting them in, and we had all kinds of guys that were just floating around. Even Corey Connors finished T12 with 3 guys that I had in all my lineups. I had Siwoo, and then I had all 3 guys that tied for 12th, and ends up paying off pretty well when you get a bunch of guys clustered towards the top of the leaderboard,
especially dudes scoring points for you.
Yeah,
but
so
it was a good start, man. It's you and I being right in lockstep with Siwoo, and then our boy just holds it down, comes out with a win. And everything, we were looking at it, everything was lining up for him to do what he did. And it's a good feeling. Good to get one under our belt so far.
Yeah, and I do have a nice surprise for us. Seth put us together a nice replay of last week, just a little clip from last week of us waxing poetic about Siwoo Kim. And but I'm celebrating with my favorite. Yeah, I'm celebrating with my favorite bourbon this week. Woodford Reserve Double Oak. This is a store pick from 2020 that I've been just sipping on every once in a while when I'm having a good day. Pouring up this, even the Double Oak that you get from a random store is outstanding juice. This one is so good though. The store pick's just another level where somebody actually went through, tasted a bunch of barrels, and said that's the one. And I can say pretty confidently that it is a good one. What do you got over there?
That's one of my go-tos. Whenever there's a bottle of that around, I can finish it off in one sitting. Woodford's delish. I am rocking out with a little bit of Highland Park 12.
Oh my goodness, that bottle is sexy.
Yeah, and this is a sexy Scotch too. I'm not a big Scotch guy, but it's got a very nice smooth finish to it. You get a little chill on it. Just really kind of a bright citrusy taste to it, which and
at a 12-year age, that's heading into 6th grade. That's junior high.
Now we're gonna have to get it a permit here pretty quick, because hanging out for about 3 or 4 years.
All right, so let's spin it back, and I'm gonna jump right into our victory lap, because that's really what this is all about here. And in case you missed it last week, this is us talking about the Sony Open in Hawaii champion last week, Siwoo Kim. My favorite guy in the 8s is Siwoo Kim, because of all the Koreans that we're talking about here, of all the South Koreans we're talking about here, you got Sung Jae, you got Tom Kim, you even have the other J Kim down lower.
Kim.
Yeah. Soo Young Kim. Siwoo is coming out of nowhere this year. I'm calling it. It sounds like you're on board with me. Siwoo models out on this course spectacular, and him coming at 8,200, probably not well owned at all. Well, tell me about Siwoo Kim here, and why are we not crazy for playing him in DFS this week?
Well, now you're putting me on the spot because I'm still trying to find his rostership. That's how far I had to scroll down.
Oh, that's excellent. I love when you do that.
8.7 projected ownership.
I can take that. We can live with that.
So why do I like Siwoo? Siwoo hits the ball close to the pin. Siwoo has a pretty excellent approach game.
Siwoo makes birdies.
And Siwoo, as of late, believe it or not, is in the top 25 for avoiding bogeys as well, which that blew my mind.
Yeah, because he's not known for that.
No.
He's known for hyper aggression, which explains the proximity and birdie numbers, but then it blows up in his face on tougher courses. This isn't one of those tough courses, Connor.
No, it's not. And I think the brilliance for Siwoo this week is he doesn't really have to exert himself too much. The typical landing zones for off the tee are going to be in that 290, 310 range. Shouldn't be a problem for Siwoo, which puts him in a proximity range of 150 to 175, where he's in the top 10. He's also in the top 20 for par threes from 175 to 200 yards, which are most of these par threes. And then, like I said, the other thing is his approach. He's in the top 10. His opportunities gained, which is, again, good looks at shooting under par per hole. He's in the top 5 in this field. So nobody's sticking the ball closer than Siwoo more consistently, at least as of late. And quite frankly, at $8,200, Siwoo is definitely someone who could win this golf tournament because he is
8.5%.
So Siwoo was actually the big star that I had in the 8K.
So. Ooh, I kind of hate when we agree, but when it's on a guy that's totally random like that shout out, Connor. Shout out.
Starting off right.
Damn right, we're starting off right. At multiple points, I wanted to cut back to the actual show instead of just replaying last week's show, but I had to get the one where it's like Siwoo could actually win this tournament. I was like, I had to get there, and so I just let the whole thing run. Man, bravo to both of us. Pat yourself on the back, Connor. We're both on the winner of the Sony Open, and talk about crapshoot. We're talking about a guy who's 7-8% rostered in DFS. And almost nobody had him betted. So this is exactly what you're looking for in a tournament where, like I covered last week, I was full fade on the favorites last week because the favorites never win at the Sony. And we decided to fade the favorite Koreans and go with the lesser known Koreans, Siwoo and SH Kim. And they were both contending for this trophy the whole week while the other two guys missed the cut.
Yeah, and I think we talked a lot about it in the betting section last week about Tom Kim and Sungjae, and that if you got to pick one, here's what we would do. But it just did not
have to pick one.
The odds and the ownership for both of them just did not seem to be lining up with the value proposition for them. And thankfully, both you and I started our rosters a little bit lower. I was super heavyweight on Taylor Montgomery last week, who up until the final round looked like he was actually going to win the tournament. It was nice to see Siwoo and Taylor right there because I was heavy on both of them.
Same with Will Gordon. You were on Will Gordon. He was in my pool, but I had him at like 20% exposure. I upped it to 40 when you agreed with me on that one. When we are simpatico on different guys, I'll bump it up because we tend to see the same things in a different light. But when it all lines up, like with Siwoo, like with Montgomery, and then with Will Gordon collapsed on Sunday, but he was right there too for most of it. And I finished 18th out of 2,200 in one tournament and then 47th out of 6,000 in another tournament. It was a banner week. I was excited. Huge profit week. My bets didn't quite click because I had Corey Connors hitting top 10 and he was T12. But either way, golf bets are a long shot. That's why the payouts are so sweet when you do win, like I did the week before that at Kapalua. But we got the Amex this week. Amex. The American Express, the credit card golf tournament.
It's everywhere you want to be.
It used to be. Spin it back. We're gonna do the club twirls in a second, but tell me about this course or courses. We have 3 of them this week in Palm Springs, Coachella Valley.
Yeah, we're hanging out in Southern California this week. I think that's like Bo's nemesis, but we'll try and get past it. So first things first, every player is going to play each of the 3 courses once. There's going to be a cut at 54 holes, and then those remaining guys will play the PGA West Stadium course, which is a Pete Dye track, for the final round on Sunday. None of the courses are insanely difficult, in my opinion. Of the 3, the stadium course is definitely going to play the toughest. It's about 7,100 and some change, par 72. And the big thing here is I think accuracy does matter quite a bit on this course. There's a lot of water, 7 or 8 holes, water's in play. Fairways are fairly undulating. And
yes.
The bunkers are incredibly penal pretty much on most of the courses.
They're wet now.
The they're penile. So you definitely want an accurate approach. You don't want to be messing with these bunkers. They're pretty serious business. So I would look for guys that have some good accuracy going into the greens and regulation, that type of stuff. The Nicklaus course is going to be just a smidge longer, also a par 72, about 7,100 and 80-ish yards. And then La Quinta, which is by far and away the easiest of the 3. I think the scoring average last year was 1.5 strokes under par.
And that's just average, because some of these guys went like below 63, 64.
Well, it's a crushable course, right? Like it's a longer course, but you got way better looks at scoring opportunities on it. So, like I said, all par 72s. The big thing I would say the big thing as you're looking at getting your betting ticket together or setting your DFS lineups is you are going to want to look at the weather Wednesday night to get a good read, because depending on where your guys are starting and what days they're playing, specifically the stadium course, you want to try and get them on that course on the best weather day, if there is any bad weather coming in. And sometimes the wind will kick up. There's been bad weather conditions. Yeah, exactly. So I'm not a big proponent of being aware of the weather week on week, but this week it does matter, because they are only getting one look at each of these courses to qualify for the final round. So,
and this is kind of the kind of this tournament where I'm a little bit more conservative on the betting side, but I'm more aggressive in playing showdown slates when I'm with lineups where I know the guys are playing La Quinta or even the Nicklaus course. If you're doing showdown slate, please don't play the guys that are playing stadium, because it's a good 3 shots tougher than the other 2 courses, and try to load up on guys that are playing La Quinta that day, because that's the course that gets lit up. The par 5s are dead straight. There's almost no rough to speak of on this course. So if you can avoid fairway bunkers and water on all 3 of these courses, we're going low, Poppy. We're talking 20, 25 under par the last 6 years in a row for the winning score. This is going to be fun. It's another birdie fest. And as John Rahm calls it, he goes here every year. John Rahm calls this the petting contest, because all things being equal, it's the guy from the betting favorite John Rahm all the way down to thousands to one long shots that nobody's heard of. If you get hot with the flat stick, you got a chance on these courses, especially on a 54-hole cut where everybody's got a pretty decent shot of putting up a number over 3 rounds of golf.
And a lot of times you see some of these long shot no names rise to the top. Hey, and I did want to answer Royal Slade's question though too, because I think it does bring up a interesting point for strategy on this tournament. My projections do not change course by course or for certain players. What I look at is a consistent approach and what I'm looking for overall with each player as they rate out on the metrics. And the reason for that is every single guy has got to play these 3 courses. So what I do is I put together the total package, and I look at it from that way, and maybe rinse in a couple of or mix in a couple of long shots down near the bottom just to have, like I said, this is a tournament that historically long shots do kind of rise to the top. So
Yeah, and I agree with that because the long shots have, other than Jon Rahm winning a couple of years ago, the average odds of the champion are 20 or 200 to 1. 200 to 1. So that's a big difference. And like the favorites can win because they can get hot just like anybody else, but the guys that are way down there can get hot like anybody else. That's kind of what it's a great equalizer. That's why it's called a putting contest, because anybody can win this damn thing all the way from top to bottom. That's why I'm going to have more guys that I'm going to put little smaller bets on when we get to that point here in a second. I just want to go back to Dee from Cooking at the Lake House. I'm going to put this comment back up there and leave it there for a while because I mean, I feel like I look good today. What about you, Connor? You look devilishly handsome compared to your usual state.
Yeah, I'm extending my neck. I'm trying to get rid of this extra chin. So I'm working out while I'm working. And I bobbled that all the way through the show.
Thank you, Dee. We appreciate you calling us handsome. And she pluralized it so we wouldn't fight over who she was calling handsome.
Well, we know she was talking to me, but it's nice for her to include you.
Yeah. You keep telling yourself that. What do you say we do some club twirls and play some bets?
It's the only way I hit a golf ball.
Yep, me too. So that was actually one of those guys was Connor back in his heyday, wearing the skinny khakis and the slim fit shirt. He's been on too many pedicab rides for that fit these days.
I ought to start pedaling on those. It might help.
Everybody's carrying your fat ass around town. Dude, while you drink more.
Somebody's got to man the cooler.
Well, the more you drink, the heavier you get too.
That's why everybody else I hang out with looks so good.
Yep. So betting wise, I just had my article submitted. It's not quite published yet, but we're going to go over some of the guys that I've been favoring this week, all the way from your favorite Jon Rahm, who's anywhere between 6 and 7 to 1. That seems pretty short for me. Even the guy with a great course history, he's literally on fire right now. He's won 3 of his last 5 starts. His last appearance was at Kapalua, which he won. This guy is top of the world, all world everything. He's red hot. Is 6 to 1 or 6.5 to 1? Is that too short for you, Connor? Because for me, it feels like it's a safe bet, but it's almost like it's not going to give you a lot of gratification, even if you win. Even if Rahm comes in and stays hot and takes this thing home, making $60 off 10 ain't going to be that cool.
No, I'll have Rahm in DFS, but I probably won't be betting Rahm at 6.5. And this is strictly a value statement. If you look at some of the guys that are in this top, I would call it the top 10 people in contention for this tournament. I don't think that Jon Rahm is any more likely to win against a presumably healthy Xander Schauffele, who you're getting at 2.5 times that. If he's presumably
healthy. Yeah, there's a couple guys here that have health red flags. That one guy I'm gonna trust, and one guy that I just saw a WD a couple weeks ago that I'm not going to trust. And Schauffele's not on my trust list.
Yeah, but I'm just using that as a comparison for our lines that are getting set right. Like if you look at the guys in this top 10 list, Will Zalatoris, Tom Kim, Sungjae Im, Tony Finau, even at double Rahm's odds.
That's sweet.
Which is probably, if you want to play something that I would deem a little shorter odds, Tony Finau is probably the first one that I'd gravitate to.
Yep.
And right now you can grab him on DK Sportsbook at 1,200, but I'm seeing him as high as 1,500 if you have access to FanDuel.
Sweet.
So
that'd be
FanDuel
sweet.
Sportsbook 1,500 is I'd be hitting that.
1,500 that's an insane number for a guy as hot as Tony Finau, who's almost as hot as Jon Rahm. And plus, the guy just models out on this course spectacular. Tony Finau eats desert courses for breakfast. He really does. If you have no obstacles in Tony Finau's way, the guy's going low. And I mean low.
We need an audio drop right there.
Going low, baby.
But no, I'm with you. I like Finau on desert courses. I really like him this week. Everything that we've been saying about Tony Finau for several, basically going back to the tail end of last season even.
Yep.
He's just really been putting it together, and I like where the game's at. So I feel like if you're going to take something that I would, deem to be a little bit shorter odds, I think Tony Finau is probably a pretty good place to start, which I already kind of said, but I'm with you, Bo. That's probably as low as I'm going.
And you kind of don't want to expose yourself too much to the top of this board because of the randomness of these winners the last few years at this event. You have 3 different courses, which randomizes things. You have a bunch of there's almost no hazards on this course to speak of. So it's basically who can get the hottest for all 4 days is going to win this tournament. And so I'm gonna dabble with some Will Zalatoris. I do think he's healthy enough to win this tournament with his ball striking, his pin seeking behavior. This guy is a pin seeker, and kind of like last week, with a little bit more emphasis on his putting skill, which we know Will Zalatoris is not the strongest putter. But if you're 4 feet from the hole every time, that's what happened last year at La Quinta. Is Zalatoris shot himself an 11 under 61. If he puts together a couple rounds like that, he can leave this whole field in the dust. No matter who's in this field, Zalatoris, a hot Zalatoris, if his back is feeling okay, I think can win at plus 2,000, 20 to 1 odds. That's a guy that I like. Guys, if I'm going to bet them outright, I want guys that can get scorching hot, put on a show, and win this thing in style. And it's kind of like Siwoo last week, where we were like, hey, Siwoo makes birdies. Zalatoris makes birdies.
Yeah, I am not as optimistic as you are about the putting with Zalatoris. I would much rather, for about the same odds, take Cam Young.
Right. Same odds. And I knew we'd agree on Cam Young, so I wanted to give you a little chance to debate me on Zalatoris because we both love Cam Young.
Yeah, and Cam Young, I think as time goes by, and Cam Young, gets another year under his belt here, and him and Zalatoris kind of normalize in terms of experience. I think Cam Young is I don't want to say a much better golfer, but I think he's
more well-rounded for sure.
He's a complete golfer.
He is.
So I probably won't have Zalatoris on the card. I'll probably, like I said, go to Young. I do want to take a couple shots at Tom Kim. I think plus 22 is a pretty good number on Tom Kim.
That's half price off last week.
Yeah,
and if
straight up
twice as good payout. And to be fair, the only reason Tom Kim missed the cut last week is because he could not make a single putt. And I've never seen this. I've seen this guy play a whole year and a half of golf now. He hasn't putted that bad ever. And so if you figure that he's going to bounce back at a course like this where anybody can go low, with the way he hits his short irons, we could be really looking at a Tom Kim like, oh, Sony Open was just a blip on the radar. That didn't mean anything to him. He probably spent Saturday and Sunday working on his putting for all we know. And I think Tom Kim's talent is off the charts. So putting him on a course like this and just saying, hey, get the flat stick going a little bit, make some putts, and you're right in the mix.
For sure. And I think we touched on it a little bit last week with Tom, is that while he has the complete package, he doesn't quite yet have the experience and the pressure and all that stuff. And I think it just got him a little bit is all. And we're talking about this course being more conducive to short, accurate shots off the tee, being even more target golf than last week. And that's really what Tom Kim does. He puts the ball in play almost every time. And I think last week was a bit of an anomaly with him not putting together the short game. And that typically he's not amazing at his short game, but he's certainly not what he did last week. So I definitely don't mind going back to the well on Tom Kim now especially that he's at a reasonable number.
At twice as good odds as last week, that's what we're here for. We're not looking to short a guy who's 20 years old. But if we're going to say, oh, Vegas hates him all of a sudden because he couldn't make a putt for one tournament, we're going to take advantage of that leverage.
What do you think about Siwoo going back to back? Because I have some interest at 41.
40-1, especially since he's a past winner of this event, which is another little cherry on top. That I don't love him going back to back, but at 40-1, that intrigues me. That's a number that I can say, hey, let's throw a few shekels on something special, because getting to know, when people get to know a champion of a tournament, especially one who comes from behind like he did last week. Hayden Buckley had the lead. Siwoo chips in on 17 to tie the lead. Birdie's an easy par 5 on 18 to take the lead and holds on. We saw that flair, that Siwoo flair. Like, we know him to be an aggressive golfer that's either going to make a string of birdies or he's going to blow up in a cloud of dust, find the water, triple bogey the last hole, just die trying. That's what we love about Siwoo, is he's just aggressive. The guy just loves playing driver off the deck. He does flop shots from everywhere. Siwoo he's a people's golfer. But because he's South Korean and there's not a lot of golf fans that are like all into the Korean movement, which happened on the LPGA Tour more than a decade ago. But now it's happening on the PGA Tour, and it's special. Like, we have some really talented guys on this tour, and Siwoo kind of getting overshadowed by the younger guys lately is tragic, because he's just as talented. We saw it last week, and he's very likable. Like, if you don't like Siwoo Kim, you can stop watching the show, because he is quickly becoming a friend of the show, especially when he wins us money.
Dude, he's such a good social media follow too.
Like, he's so funny. I just love how he just like, every time he gets a bad shot, it's the same, like, oh man, he laughs at himself. You just loved it. You love guys that don't take the game too seriously. Like, he's the anti Patrick Reed. He's the guy that you actually can't help but like, instead of the opposite way. There's a lot of unlikable golfers on the PGA Tour, and so we gravitate the guys who are personable, who respond to messages, even if it's just encouragement. We like guys that want to talk to the people that enjoy watching them do their job. It's crazy. These guys are out there doing their job for money, and we're trying to make money off of them doing their job. Think about that.
Yeah, which is we got to be extra nice to some of these guys, I think.
Yeah, some of them we don't have to be.
You got anybody super long you're interested in?
Oh yeah, I'm throwing some half units at some long shots this week. SH Kim, I mean, why not? This guy he's another one of those South Koreans that's just on fire, all around game. He was up there in contention all week at a really dirt cheap DFS price. He's coming in at 130-1. Yeah, I'm going to throw some money on that guy, because I like watching him play just as much as Siwoo. I don't know him as a person quite as well, because he's not the social media darling. He hasn't really taken on that hat yet, but as well as he's been playing lately, 130-1 is way too long for a guy of his caliber. And then you have guys like David Lipsky that I'll throw like a quarter unit on. But if we're talking about long shots, there's plenty in this field that are just way too long. Do you want to know who I'm going to go after here? I want you to guess first.
How long are we talking?
I'm in that 300-1 area.
Oh, I'll bet you're looking at Brandon Wu, maybe?
No. It's a guy we've talked about pretty often on the show.
I don't know. Hit me. There's quite a few in that range.
Well, we just said John Rahm calls this a putting contest, so why wouldn't I go after my guy Mark Hubbard? After missing the cut last week, I have a feeling that he's the kind of guy that he's hit and miss. Like, Mark Hubbard will go months without doing anything, and then he'll pop up on a top 5 every once in a while. And that's kind of what I see, is he's a resort course specialist. He's not your guy that's going to contend at the Masters. He's probably not even going to qualify for the Masters. I hope he does. I hope Mark Hubbard wins a tournament this year and gets invited to Augusta, because we've been on him for over a year. This is a kind of guy he's a great putter. It's just his short approach to the short game. That transition appeals to me on this type of array of courses, especially par 72. That's kind of what tripped me up last week when I played Hubbard, is that he does better on par 72s and 71s than par 70s. Par 70s, he doesn't get the chance to go really pin seeking with the wedge on as many par 5s. And I think that's what trips him up on those shorter, on lower par courses. Mark Hubbard, yes or no? At 300 to 1.
I love Mark Hubbard, always do. I love rooting for the guy. I would say I would prefer him somewhere where he's getting more than where he's guaranteed at least 2 rounds on the same course. I think one thing with Mark Hubbard is he needs to find his groove. And when you're rotating through 3 courses, I think that may be a little problematic for him. But I do like that he's guaranteed 3 rounds. To your point, he is a prolific scorer when he's on. So at 300 to 1, I don't hate it. The guy that I'm actually really interested in down there at 300 to 1, and he can be had as high as 350 to 1, is Justin Lauer, who over the last 24 rounds, actually in my modeling rates out 13th overall.
I think he was higher in my model. He popped up on mine for sure.
I ran it a couple different ways, but I built in some individual par 3, par 4, par 5 scoring, and he dipped a little bit because he's not super great at par 3 scoring.
He rated 10th in mine.
10th overall.
10th overall.
Yeah, and so he's a guy. We'll talk about him in DFS more. I won't bore you with it, but he's a guy that already I'm seeing the numbers slip and slide. He's as low as 200 to 1 in some spots. So if you've got access to DK, you got access to MGM, he's still in that 350 to 300 to 1 range. And
yeah, he's 300 on DraftKings right now.
So it's a pretty good number for somebody rating out that high in this field.
I know. Yeah, fucking Mark Hubbard, man. He's a fan favorite for us because the guy won us money in DFS, and we never forget. If you burn us, we don't forget, and if you win us money, we don't forget. Mark Hubbard won both of us money last year as long shot picks in the lower 7s and 6s in DFS. These guys they're near and dear to our heart. The value plays, the guys that don't get enough respect for how stinking good they are at this game.
This is a game of low percentages, and so you got to take some shots. This ain't football. There isn't a clear-cut winner every week.
Yeah, it's especially with 130, 140 guys every week, and especially in a tournament like this where number 135 in the world golf rankings among the field could very easily win this damn thing. This is the kind of week where Mark Hubbard it doesn't make you go, that's a stupid pick, because you don't know at this tournament. It could very well be stupid, and the guy could go out and win because, who won last year? Hudson Swafford? Give me a break.
Like I said, it's a tournament of long shots.
We love long shots. So Dee says we're spitting today. We're spitting.
Hot fire.
Yeah. I think we covered our bets mostly. Check out my betting article for betting pros on bettingpros.com. It'll for sure be out by tomorrow. That's going to give you all the bets that I'm placing my own money on. That's kind of, it goes into more detail about the betting side and the leverage that you get from just having the books be different from your own number in your head. A little bit more on bankroll management there too, because if you're betting long shots, you're not going to win too frequently, but when you do hit, it pays off huge. With that being said, we're riding hot in DFS, so let's do the no trunk slams. That's
the club as well. This would be a wrestling slam.
So this is No Trunk Slams, our DFS segment. We are focused primarily on DraftKings because they just have a better product when it comes to PGA DFS. This is the American Express, of course. It's 3 different courses. 54-hole cut is the main little alteration to this tournament that's unique. For DFS, it's really tough to gauge because most of the time you're either doing no cut or a 36-hole cut. 54 does change things, especially when it comes to having guys that make having all 6 guys on your roster make the cut a little bit less important this week. Connor, who are you kind of getting more conservative with that approach? Like you're saying, hey, I want safer guys that are more sure to make the 54-hole cut, or are you kind of getting more aggressive because it's not quite as important to hit that 6 for 6 number this week?
Well, I definitely don't like the last thing you said. You need 6 of 6, in my opinion. It's and why I don't necessarily know if I fully agree is I think it is tricky to do it this week too, because of the amount of longer shots that you're probably going to see coming rising to the top. That being said, at least in my modeling, I was surprised at where some of these high dollar guys actually rated out in comparison to some of these longer shot guys. And I tried my best.
It's shocking. It's shocking because I'll run a few models where I'm trying to get the favorites towards the top, and then I'm running models where I'm trying to talk myself out of the top guys. Like, okay, if I run it this way, if I weight this heavier, if I weight putting heavier, for example, that seems to take a lot of these favorites out of the picture completely because they're maybe so dominant from tee to green that the putting can be average. That if I weight this towards a putting contest, quote unquote, that's probably why we have so many long shot winners here, is because it is the great equalizer where you're not seeing a big advantage based on skill and caliber. That's not really in play here. It's basically who plays the best 4 rounds of golf, and in a way, that's kind of beautiful.
For sure. And I'm just with you, and that was the point I was going to make. I ran about 5-6 different models before I landed on one that I liked. Thank you. So yeah, to your point, I definitely went through the same process, and every time I ran one, I was more and more surprised at the guys that were consistently coming out in the top 10, top 15. And we don't reiterate this enough weekly, but I mean, I typically operate under a player pool of about 20, maybe 25 guys in a given week. So when I do my modeling, I look at that a lot. I kind of look at who is landing in my top 20, my top 25, and I kind of keep working my model when something seems like an outlier. And by about the third or fourth time of running my models and adjusting stuff and seeing the same guys, I kind of said, okay, well, that's
your pool.
This has got to be either my model is going to be wrong, which happens, or this thing is spot on, and these are the guys I want to look at. So,
yeah, I completely agree. My model runs for about 30 to 35 players in an event this size, and I kind of did expand it out a little bit farther this week because of the randomness and the fact that it's a 54-hole cut, is I wanted a little bit more exposure to these lesser priced guys. Stars, I have a feeling Stars and Scrubs is going to win this in DFS, where you're not necessarily paying up for the very top, but you can get a couple of the towards the top guys and a bunch of guys that are in that set mid sevens down under 7 range. And if you hit it, you hit it. And I have a feeling that expanding from, I usually do 20 lineups down up to 30 or 40, maybe even 50 lineups, is I can cover more like a shotgun approach, like where the buckshot spreads out farther and you hit more surface area. And it's kind of the way I've been finding myself, especially with how many guys that I found were in that lower price value range that popped up repeatedly, not just in the top 25 of my model, but in the top 10. That was surprising as heck. So I knew I was going to be able to afford chalky top guys just because I feel I have a pretty sharp sense of who the value guys are going to be this week. That's where we feel good about it.
Should we get into it?
Yeah, so let's start at the top. Jon Rahm, former champion of this event, winner of 3 of his last 5 starts, including his very last one in Kapalua. 10-8. I mean, it seems reasonable because a lot of times we see guys over 11 in this kind of spot where he's the outright favorite by quite a margin. But 121 fantasy points per week. That's pretty good. That's actually best in the field by a short margin over Patrick Cantlay.
Yeah, but I will say the biggest difference between Cantlay and Rahm is over the course of the season, Rahm's number will stay that high. Cantlay's usually will end up dipping. I mean, he's never bad, but it'll end up being around 90 a week average, maybe as low as 85 a week average.
Those two guys seem to be the chalky choices that I've so far that I've seen, which is fine with me because it's not overly chalky. I wasn't seeing anybody really over 15%. So there's plenty of leverage to be had in your value tier. So I don't feel bad about going chalky at the top if I know it's going to give me that many points. So I'll have probably equal shares of Cantlay and Rahm, and maybe I'll even put both of them in the same lineup and get cheap elsewhere.
Yeah, I won't have both in the same lineup. And honestly, I mean, I'm looking at similar numbers to what you're looking at, obviously. I will say I refreshed like literally as we're sitting here. And Cantlay is coming at about 20% calculated rostership. And Rahm is all the way down to 14.1. So to kind of to the point with the two consistent guys and guys that I think I can almost assuredly will be there on Sunday. I probably will play Rahm over Cantlay just because of the rostership percentage.
Yeah.
But up in that top tier, I think I'm still leaning towards Tony Finau chalk at 19%.
Tony Finau chalk is so tasty this week, though. And I think that's fine for your 20 and under entry events. Like if you're in a GPP, you're almost forced to play Scotty Scheffler here because he's so much lower owned for, I don't really know the reason, because this is one of the top 3 golfers in the world. And he lines up with this course really well with his short game and 100 yards in. He's kind of in that tier with me from 100 yards in, including around the green and on the green. He's in that Cam Smith territory where you're like, okay, on a course like this guy could eat it alive. And if he's coming in at such a low ownership, then I'm going to do a lot of Scotty in bigger tournaments.
And I think the reason that some of the databases you and I use for rostership are showing Scotty coming in so much lower is because the public isn't sharp like the way that these databases are, right? If you pull any sort of modeling on Scotty Scheffler, you're going to show that he's pretty much dead last in the field over the last 24 to 36 rounds in putting. You're also going to see that his approach game has been fairly bad as well. While I definitely think he's in the top 5 in the world, regardless of rank, just my ranking, I think he's in the
your ranking means more than the OGWR for me.
Number 1 in your heart. But I would say that I probably will be a pass on Scotty, and I'll probably be late to the party on him as well. But I just don't like.
You are late to the party so often. I like to be like I'm the lame guy that shows up early and stands around and helps set up.
It's because they have appetizers.
Yeah, I can reach the ceiling for the streamers.
No, I do want to emphasize. I mean, I don't know that Scotty Scheffler finds that short game element on a 3-course rotation. It is the biggest reason that I'm probably going to avoid him this week. I think I'll start playing Scotty a lot heavier in weeks to come because I know it's coming. But I don't think this is probably the week to get right.
Yeah, I'm getting aggressive, especially as the ownership tells us there are sharp people out there that pay attention to his recent form. I'm just saying that if I'm getting a long shot as far as odds goes in DFS ownership, then I'd rather play a leverage guy that's maybe just going to find his way at an easier course. That's why he's there, I'm assuming, is to get sharpened up for Pebble Beach and for those other tournaments that he typically does well in. I like Scotty in a way that where his upside's still the same, even if he's scuffling a bit. And you never know when Scotty gets hot, it's up there, world class. You know that. But I think the 9s is full of guys I love in this tournament. Like you can go all the way through these 9s, and there's guys that you can argue can win this tournament with, nobody being surprised.
Yeah, with you. And that's the honestly, I probably will not start above probably 9,500 very much this week. Like I'll have some Finau, I'll have some Rom, guaranteed 3 rounds though, and the way these guys are rating out, and looking at some correlation to guys winning here that played last week historically.
Yeah, it's like if you have, it's the winning the last 12 of the last 13 winners have played at least one of the Hawaiian tournaments, and that's a big deal because they're kind of getting right for this tournament by playing in Hawaii. That it makes a lot of sense because guys that are starting their season after months off with this tournament, that kind of puts you at a disadvantage to guys that are already warmed up and in full sequence for what they're doing this year.
And so that being said, I really like Tom Kim, Siwoo Kim, and Cam Young, which we've already talked about those 3. I may
that's
have
a sweet spot this week. That is the sweet spot.
And I may have a significant amount of my rosters starting with those 3 in because there are enough plays down in the 7s that I like.
For single entry especially, you want a solid core of guys that you really trust this week, and then you can get weird on alternate lineups and alternate contests. I love single entry golf PGA DFS because it's so exacting to the person's sharpness that week. Like if you're on a good core of golfers in single entry, you win. Like you win good money in single entry DFS just by being sharp. And it's less of that buckshot approach that the GPP bros do, which is fine. I like that too. Taking long shots and swinging for the fences in hopes for that big payout. That blows everybody's skirt up. But if we're looking at saying, hey, I just want to build my bankroll, I want to win good money, and I want my winnings to be reflective of my skill level rather than just how sharp my overall scope of player pool is. That's kind of what that appeals to me a little bit more too, because I like to do those single entries. It's like the perfect barometer. It's like your best lineup against everybody else's, and when you win with those, you feel better.
Well, and especially early in the season too. It's my favorite time to do single entry and even big single entries. Just because
like 9,000-10,000 people in it. Yeah.
And it helps me gauge whether my process is working. And everybody's got a little different process on how they go about business. But, if my process is working, I typically am able to take one entry that I feel very confident about and turn a profit on it. So, a lot, and I probably play more single entries, but close to as many total entries as you do with some of your GPPs.
Right.
But I get very, very invested in one lineup, and I like to play it everywhere I can.
It's my baby. It's my baby. This is my baby. Last week, my baby was all the Kims except Tom.
Which, if you had done that legit, if you had like an all South Korean team,
they would have cleaned house. I mean, other than the popular South Koreans at the top would have killed you.
Which you wouldn't have been able to play together anyway with an all Korean
right,
team.
Especially not because Siwoo was 8,200, but SH Kim was 73, I think. So he was gettable in every lineup, and it turns out that the single entry tournament that I got 18th in out of 2,200 people was that lineup had it was 3% ownership on SH Kim. And that was like, oh man, I've been on this guy since day one this week. I was all over this. I was like, I can't wait to play Soo Young Kim, because the guy just plays his butt off, and nobody gives him any credit because he was a Korn Ferry Tour guy last year. And so he gets to be on the tour from placing high enough in a PGA Tour event that he was invited to. And this guy has been balling out on tour ever since he came onto the PGA Tour from Korn Ferry. The guy's been balling out and getting no recognition at all. So I will bet on him, and I will put him in a lot of lineups this week. He's still not expensive. We're not even to that tier yet. I'm excited to talk about him.
So let's talk about this tier real quick, and then we'll start sliding down. But
it's going off the rails for me.
So Cam Young is the guy that I want to touch on of the 3 that I mentioned. in the 9K range. And the only reason I want to touch on him is I have very similar feeling and belief about him that you do about Scotty Scheffler. The things that have been missing for Cam Young lately have been some of the accuracy parts of his game, as well as putting, which he's not like a lights out putter, but he's always in the top.
Really good when he's good, though.
Yeah. And on top of that, he's typically he hits a lot of fairways. He's ranking out almost dead last over the last 24 rounds. Yeah. So there's some red flags with him too, but I like that he's a big hitter, and I like that this week he can club down, and that may help him find some more accuracy.
Or just go full takeover mode. Like bombers on this course can bypass a lot of these little target golf areas, and that's where we, like when we saw Rahm win, and even Swafford's a bomber too, and he was out there just pin seeking because he had wedge into every hole, and that's something I can see Cam Young doing.
It worries me a little on the stadium course just because the amount of water that runs adjacent to the
we saw it last year when Cam Young was among the leaders going into Sunday, and he shot a 77, I think, at the stadium course, and found the water down the stretch to fall apart. I remember that fondly because we were both on Cam Young in this tournament last year. We were both like, oh, yeah, Cam Young. And then through Saturday night, we're like, yeah, we're totally nailed it. And then Cam Young decided to go surfing.
Yeah. Oh, good memories.
But this year this is the tournament of first-time winners. If I'm going to say the first time a guy is going to be a first-time winner at this tournament this week, you bet your ass I'm going to say Cam Young is the guy. That's why I'm excited about him, because he's ready for that first win.
I love Cam Young. So that's he's kind of a little bit my Siwoo this week, where I'm just throwing. I've got a big star.
I was just going to say that. I was like, he's my Siwoo this week. And so we're in full agreement for the second straight week on our core locked in golfer of the week. So, I mean, I see you, Connor.
Oh boy. Either.
I see you.
Break out the Gray Sports Almanac and check in the future for us, would you?
I just, Biff stole it.
That fat bastard.
Yeah. Let's go down to the 8s and cover some, okay options. I think the 7 tier is stronger than the 8 tier, to be honest.
The 2 that I want to hit on in the 8s, the biggest 2 that I want to hit on, Taylor Montgomery again. All the reasons I loved him last week and everything he did last week.
Putting contest. Let's go with the best putter in the world.
He truly, the only guy better in this field is about $200 cheaper than him, who is the second guy I wanted to hit on, and that's Andrew Putnam.
Yeah. His name is Putnam. What do you do, Putnam? I'm Putnam.
The other thing I love about Andrew Putnam is he stays his ass out of trouble. He's number one in bogey avoidance.
He's the accurate. He's a pinpoint. He's like as straight as you can. Like you watch his shot track, it doesn't move. It's just straight. And golfers that can hit a straight ball on this course, they're going to be just fine, especially if they putt as well as Putnam.
Yeah. So those two are up there on my heavy roster recommendation.
I hate how much we're agreeing again.
We've just gotten so smart.
We're going to get to Callum Tarrant because he's an interesting one.
Is Seth watching?
He must be, because Dee knows Seth loves himself. Oh my God, we're gonna talk about Callum Tarrant, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
He loves Callum Tarrant. I don't know if he even knows that Callum Tarrant is an Englishman.
No, Seth probably thinks he's from like Philly.
He's a real yinzer.
Like I went to high school with Callum. It's gotta be the same dude.
Yeah. All right. So those two guys I love. I want a little bit of Thigala because he's the kind of guy that can make a lot of birdies when he gets hot. He didn't exactly look good last week, but I know you're off him this week, surprisingly, but number 2 in my entire model was Tom Hoge. And I don't know why you're off him this week of all weeks. It's where he goes to go throw darts in the desert. This is Tom Hoge's course. He's played well here. What's wrong with you?
I'm just not feeling Hoge this week.
How do you not like Hoge? How do you like him last week? and then go to this week and say, nope, no thanks.
I saw too many flyovers of too much water on too many par threes, and Tom Hogan sucks at par threes.
Yeah, but par fours, he eats them up.
No, I have Tom Hoagie in my pool.
Okay, I was gonna say there's no way you full faded a guy you loved last week on a very similar tournament.
No, I know we have a lot to talk about the seven, so I didn't say everybody. I've got KH Lee starred too. Two guys. But hey, KH Lee continues to be at least consistent. I mean,
he pops up every time. He's the kind of guy. The Panda pops up every week because he's a paper golfer, and he was popular we talked about him last year in this tournament, and he missed the damn cut like that. I don't like guys that miss the cut at these tournaments. Like, how do you trust a guy that misses a cut in this tournament?
Because he's playing decent. I don't have a good answer for you.
I guess, but at 8,300, I'd rather have him at 77, somewhere in there.
I would bet you I bet you I'm no more than 5 to 8% rostership on KH Lee. For $100, I'd rather play Hoagie. I mean,
yeah, and I want to kind of run from the 8s into the 7s because the two guys that popped up really high in my model and I couldn't explain it was Taylor Pendrith. Yeah, Taylor Pendrith at 8 and Jason Day at 79. I hate both of these guys this week, but they modeled super well. So if you want to trust my numbers over my gut, then play those two guys. But Jason Day is playing ass golf for the last 2.5 years, and Pendrith is as streaky as they get. And the guy I just don't like him. What is wrong with Taylor Pendrith? He ends up on the top. He's a top 20 watch guy. He's never going to win you a tournament though.
He can't putt. I mean, that's
pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, he does everything else actually pretty well, but he can't putt.
Yeah, it's just I don't understand why those two guys, especially Day. I'm like, what? Day isn't even making cuts these days. What are we playing with Jason Day here?
Jason Day. I will start by saying I like Jason Day. I like listening to Jason Day talk. I think he's funny.
Oh, he's Australian, of course.
He's a super nice guy. He's always patting everybody on the ass.
I've rooted for Jason Day for a decade.
But the problem I got with him is that he withdraws with such frequency. It's actually going to be relatively cool in Southern California this weekend. He hasn't really done anything. And I mean, the reason that he's showing up in modeling is because when he does decide to complete a full tournament, it's because he happens to be playing decent. Jason Day has a bad first day. He's out. Yeah. Yep. All of a sudden,
either with vertigo or a bad back or a shoulder. It's always something with Jason Day. If he's off, he pulls. I mean, Jason Day is the Australian version of Sergio Garcia, if you think about it.
Is this the course that he pulled out of 2 years ago and took his kids to Disneyland? Is this the same tournament?
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah. It's either that or Torrey, but I have a feeling that he would have stuck it around in a bigger tournament like Torrey. But
for a guy that's not going to win, I'm not going to waste the money on a guy. No. I can't do it. But to your point, he's number 3 in my model. It's terrifying.
I don't even know why. How? Makes me question everything when I see Jason Day's name at the top.
The worst I could get him was to number 8. That was the worst.
Jesus. Don't play Jason Day, guys. Don't do it.
Don't listen to us. I don't even know why we're talking about Jason Day. You should not play Jason Day.
No, don't do it. Denny McCarthy in a putting contest. I trust Denny McCarthy in a putting contest.
You know who I like that's right there is Patrick
Killer
Rogers.
Keith. Oh, I was gonna say if you say Killer Keith, then it's another guy that I don't want to play that's in my model.
So I got to give you a couple of quick stats on Patrick Rogers, and this is over the last 24 rounds because I'm not a Patrick Rogers believer, fan, or otherwise, but the numbers are showing up for him. He's number 6 in the field for birdies or better gained. He's number 11 in strokes gained off the tee, which is an accuracy metric. He's number 4 in shots gained par 3. He's number 8 in shots gained par 5. and this is, again, recent performances. If he's got some holes, though, it's going to show up under putting, which and once we start getting into the 7s, though, a lot of these guys have some holes in their game. So the fact that he's hitting the ball close and being in scoring positions on par threes, par fours, and par fives, I think that that's a pretty good value at that price.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you can't argue with that. That's solid. I just added him to a lineup. Thank you. We'll see what happens with Patrick Rogers. Going down the sevens is solid with guys that I'm going to have in my pool, not including Ricky Fowler. Don't do that. And Will Gordon. I mean, why not go back to the well with Will Gordon? He's probably pissed off that he played so shitty on Sunday, but up until Sunday, the guy was playing his butt off. Good recent form. I really like playing guys that are sharp already coming in, like you said, guys that played in Hawaii coming into this tournament already warmed up. I think Will Gordon can continue his success. I like playing hot golfers. Only the good-looking ones. Talk me out of David Lipsky. The guy's playing pretty well lately.
He's another guy that if I'm going to poke a hole in his game, it's putting. He's really not very good at it. He's also not very great at par 3 scoring or par 5 scoring, but he hits
just those two.
So
two-thirds of the course, but he's really good on the par 4s.
Those 3 things not great. However, he does hit a lot of fairways. He does have a good approach game. I think he's another guy that some of these other stats are going to lead you away from him. But if his approach game is on, he's close enough that you don't necessarily have to sweat the putting metric as much. These guys are elite from 5 feet and in, most of them. So if you're knocking it close. And I did want to say, too, I saw Cooking at the Lake House's comment about Tom Hoagie. I think that's a pretty good comment, actually.
Sharp. We should have her on the show. Come on, Dee. Get you on the show next week.
That's
sound analysis.
That is sound analysis, which is why he ends up on the island every few weeks. He's not elite. But yeah, David Lipsky is in my pool, but I think for $100 more, I feel a lot more confident in Will Gordon. So I think that's where a lot more of my money is going to get spent.
Yeah, like you like playing hot golfers too. If the guys are playing well and rolling, they're not going to stop all of a sudden on a course like this. They say they're bad performances for Riviera.
We're at the $7,200 mark. Would you like to talk about Callum Tarrant or?
Oh, is he right there? Gross. Callum Tarrant, bomber check, proximity no check, putting streaky. When he's hot with the putter, this guy's he could make birdies in very high numbers. So yeah, I mean, throw it at 7,200. Why not throw a dart on Callum Tarrant just for the Seth lineup? Seth, put Callum in your lineup because it's okay to this week. I guess he's going to be in the pool, but
I do like him this week actually, and I did already have him in my pool. And the biggest reasons that I like him actually, good approach game and par 4 scoring. He's in the upper echelon for shots gained par 4. And as we all know, on a golf course, there are more par 4s than par 3s and par 5s. So I do kind of like that he has the correct skill set. Maybe hasn't shown it over the last 36 rounds. But we did make some money with Callum Tarrant last year, and he can get very hot. He had one of the highest single day DFS performances of anybody last season. So
yeah, what was it, Mexico? Or
I think so. Where Seth was on him, which we'll never hear the end of.
The Mexico Open at Vedanta, and Seth is like Callum Tarrant week.
Seth got him at the Kentucky Fried Chicken Open.
Callum Tarrant from Philly, North England.
Joe's Philly cheesesteak, a public golf outing.
In London.
But anyways,
play him. He's okay.
I'll tell you the biggest shocker of the 7s, and then for me, and then we can probably move into the 6s and wrap it up. But the biggest shocker for me was Matt Neesmith. Showed up in the top 10 of every single model I ran.
Yeah, and he was one I kept though. He was one I definitely kept.
So Matt Neesmith, 7,100.
71
is rating out super well in every metric I looked at, with the exception of bogey avoidance, which he's still in the top 2/3 of the field. So it's not a great stat to be, outside of the top 50 in, but everything else that I'm looking at for him over the last 36 rounds is pretty damn set up for these three courses. So Matt Neesmith is not somebody I would normally click on a given week, but when 5-6 models show him in the top 10, I guess I probably better listen.
It's hard to ignore that. I found the same thing. And so since I like Neesmith enough, I kept him in the pool because I couldn't kick him out. There's nothing I could do to kick him out. Let's see. Sixes. Are there anybody? I mean, there's a couple for me here, but 6,000. I think the 7,000 tier is so solid that you won't have to go too low too often. Maybe your GPP guys, you can take shots on lower. I mean, lower, however you said it, 6,800. Definitely on my list. The guy's playing really well. Don't know why he's so cheap. I pictured him in the low sevens, but yeah, there's a couple guys I kind of like down here. Bryce Garnett seems to do well in these types of tournaments out of nowhere. I don't know why, but I mean, he's the John Deere Classic. He's the Shell Houston Open. He's not going to do well at bigger tournaments with tougher courses. Like, you don't see him popping up at Bay Hill all of a sudden. But it's for me, it's just these guys you just throw darts on based on, oh, he did something that one time.
I mean, Lauer, I think, is a little better than that. To your point, I think he should be in the 7Ks. I just saw that note. Will Gordon is actually 29th in my model, so you're close, very close.
I think he was 17th in mine, so that's pretty strong.
James Hahn is actually somebody who, had he played last week, would have made my pool, and he's down here at 6,800, rates out 23rd in my model. The biggest probably opportunity for him is gonna be playing a little better on par threes this week. Outside of that, he rates out pretty well, and his approach game is actually in the top 10. So as I built my model, decent putting, decent off the tee, top 20 for bogey avoidance, pretty good play, and he rated out even better last week in that field. So he's in this tournament, at least as of right now. If he does go ahead and play the tournament, I would say James Hahn at 6,800, and then Nico Acavaria, way down there. Yeah. So
what's the price?
6,200. T12.
Echeverria.
T12 in Sony, at the Sony. Had no idea who the guy was.
From Colombia.
Medellin, Colombia. So, but anyways, I did dive into him a little bit, and a couple of things. You're not going to find a whole lot of stats on the guy. Driving distance, he's about right around 300 off the tee. He has a 61% driving accuracy. Greens in regulation is kind of what piqued my interest a little bit. He is approaching a 68% greens in reg rate. So that, to me, like, just looking at what he did last week, knowing that he's accurate off the tee, knowing that he's hitting greens in regulation, I think those items stack up to say he's going to have some looks. And that T12 last week is actually really impressive for a guy that prior to last week, I had no idea who the hell he was.
Yeah, and you're the first I've heard that name, Echeverria from Colombia. There's one other guy that popped up at under 7 in my model, Sam Ryder at 6,800. I don't think he's anything special. Maybe he's your cheap guy to make the cut that kind of puts you over the top in an optimal lineup. But that was just another name that popped up when I was running it. And then Adam Long, the Englishman, 6,900, was another guy that popped up for some reason. So I'll mention their names. I'm just going to throw them in the pool and get a little bit of each one of them just in case. But what else you got?
I just want to reiterate that Nicholas
Echeverria.
Yeah,
Echeverria.
That's not me just throwing a dart at the wall. Like, I did a little bit of research on this guy. Like, you're gonna see that name.
Well, I'm gonna have to now because what little research you had put a new name in my bank, and so now I gotta vet him myself.
I can't imagine needing to dip to 6,200, but if you want to have some fun on one of your lineups,
that's wild. That's a Millie Maker guy.
I think that's probably it. I mean, there's some stats popping for, Ben Taylor at 7K and Eric Cole at 63. Both popped in a few of my metrics, so those might be other guys to look at. But the interesting thing, and really something to think about this week as you're building your lineups, is that all of the rostership is congregating at the top of this board. So you don't need to really go down to these weird guys in the 6s to get different. There's a lot of plays in the 7s and 8s that Bo and I went over that will make your lineup plenty different from 25 to 30% of your closest friends.
And that, my friends, is how you do it. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Dee Dee from the Lake House. She's cooking it up over there. Check her out on the socials. We appreciate everyone who tunes in. If you want to make money, this is the easy way to do it because we're on fire. We're literally flaming right now. Just yeah. And so, make sure you like and subscribe this video. Check us out next Tuesday at 8:30 Eastern for the what's next week? The what, Riviera?
I think so. God, I should know that. I haven't even looked.
We're a mess, but we should win at the American Express this week.
I heard we got a football show on this network going on right now as well. So if you got nothing else to do, pop over.
And there's a couple of people still here. It said. So anyway, see you next week, Connor. Do you have any parting words for the public?
Nope. Just play the good plays, right? That's what we say. Play the good plays, win some money.
Get to cash. I did it again.